your thoughts on different cities within the nation and just where they are now in terms of their next probably short to medium term, the outlook, starting, I guess, in Sydney and Melbourne, which have had their phase now. I guess the boom is over, as people are calling it. What are your thoughts there if we just go around?
With the exception of premium property, I see great opportunity. So it would be disingenuous of me not to explain that as much as I've said Sydney and Melbourne are at a peak, and I'd suggest trending down, premium property's still got a long way to go. Really generic statement, 600 we know has gone to 850, but 6 million has not gone to 8.5, not yet. So that's still ahead of us. So everything sort of $5, $6, $7 million plus, I see hope for.
What would actually cause that? What would cause the 6 to go to 8.5?
Yeah, well, what I would link that more to as, I suppose, to be understood by the normal market, call it the ripple effect. Ripple effect works in two ways. It's not just in a financial sense, markets move from a bottom up. This is not a, again, world according to Gav, this is a pretty universal truism across the globe. Everything that's $200,000 gets popular first. Everything that's $300,000 gets popular first, and eventually works its way up the market. In a geographical sense, where everyone wants to be, and they're proving where everyone wants to be because market forces have dictated that, you know, the middle of Istanbul is the popular bit, and how they decide that is usually on a square metre rate. You know, that's as old as the hills way of obviously valuing property, about the market determines what the value is worth. And as you move out, obviously the land is less expensive. Now, my point being is, let's just, to answer your question, that ripple effect in price has not moved up yet. And you can see from the last cycle where even though the averages in 2004 and 5 capped out, you know, with highs in the mid 500s for Sydney, premium market didn't really collapse until the GFC, 2007 and 8, you know, a 2 or 3 year lag time. And that's the natural order of things. There's no big secret or conspiracy around that. Fully expect that to occur. Extension of your question, what do I hope for Sydney and Melbourne? I think Sydney now soft landing, as I've explained. I think that shift, which is thankful that the stars have aligned, that now there's so much more of a focus on owner-occupiers, should give a little bit more of an airbag to those people that are bought on the promise of riches in Sydney. While they're not going to see any growth, they're not going to see the thud that I previously expected that they would, which is a good thing for them. So there still will be flight out of Sydney as people realise those prices are less, but that flight will be a soft landing, not a hard thud. Melbourne, give or take, similar. Melbourne does not have the undersupply problem that Sydney did have. So I'd see a bit more perennial weakness out of Melbourne in 4 or 5 years. I'd see Sydney recovering, you know, maybe 3.5, 4 years. I mean, you could barely throw a blanket over that timeline anyway. So that's a to be continued sort of space.
What about Adelaide?
Adelaide's not a market that I really participate in, and that's not because I don't know it or understand it at all. It's because that has, look, the one thing I was always taught when you think about investment, and in economics even, and this is an absolute unavoidable fact, that is demographics, which is the movement of people, equals dollars. If a cluster of people go over there and they decide that they want to buy that coffee's going up. With the exception of communism, where things are dictated by different forces, central forces, okay, or manipulated forces, the market's making that decision, that coffee's going to go up, okay? On the other hand, if people decide that they want to go into a particular area, right, that price is going to go up in that particular area. Problem I have with Adelaide, historically, and certainly looking through the little window now it's got in it, with its with the trade that it does in regards to its shipbuilding industry, in regards to its mining, etc. You look at the mines, the Olympic Dam mines, where the commodity cycles are at the moment. I don't see a lot of short-term hope for growth. Now, that will intertwine with in the next 3 and 4, 5 years for some good news for Adelaide, where I think those jobs will come back in a cyclical fashion to those industries, and they would go excellent. Waiting for that, we'll see a property boom. No, they won't, because that will unfortunately marry, I'd suggest, with some higher interest rate rises. So Adelaide, unfortunately, just has got dealt a really bad deck of cards.